So for today's lesson, what we'll be doing is taking a look at a new topic called the distributive property. We're going to apply it to various problems. Now, take a look at this first problem. The 3 is going to be applied to everything in the bracket. So in this case, we're going to have 3 times 2x and then 3 times minus 5y. Upon doing so, we're going to get for the first part 6x, and then 3 times negative 5y will give us negative 15y. For number 2, we'll do the same problem again. Negative 4, and we're going to apply it to everything in the bracket. So we get negative 4x squared, because there's only a 1 sitting in front of the x squared. And then we take negative 8 times negative 4, which gives us positive 32x. And now we have negative 4 times positive 3, which gives us negative 12. And now we'll move on to questions 3 and 4. Questions 3 and 4 will eventually have to... So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a compound problem that uses both of the same rules that we used before, but this time we have 2 separate parts that we're going to bring together. So now you'll notice in this first part we have 2 times 2x minus 8, and then we have plus 4 times 3x minus 6. We're going to apply the same rules that we did before, except this time I'm just going to kind of highlight the fact that we're going to take the 2 and we're going to distribute the 2 into 2x minus 8. And then we're going to do the same thing for 4, plus 4. And we're going to distribute plus 4 into 3x minus 6. In doing so, we end up with something like this. I'm going to just write underneath this time. So now we're going to get 2 times 2x, which is going to be 4x. 2 times negative h, which is negative 16. Now, for plus 4, we're going to take plus 4 and multiply it into 3x. So we're going to get plus 12x. Now we're going to take plus 4 and multiply it by negative 6 to get plus 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. Now, the only thing that's left to do is to, you guessed it, collect like terms. Now remember, this part here is called distribution. So remember, with our distribution, if there's a plus 4 or minus 4, we kind of distribute it in, and then we collect our like terms. So now, collecting our like terms, I'm actually just going to put them together in black here. So I look at 4x. So I got a 4x here. And now I look for anything else that has an x in it. And you'll notice that 12x has an x in it. So we're going to put that together with 4x. So we got plus 12x. Now we have negative 16. And now negative 16 and negative 24 are constants, so we're just going to bring those two together. So we're going to get negative 16 minus 24, which now gives us, well, 4x plus 12x is 16x, and minus 16 minus 24 gives us minus 40, and there we have our answer. Now, we're going to follow the same steps again for question number 4. So just like before, we're going to have whatever's in front has to be applied to everything on the inside. We distribute whatever it is to the inside of the bracket, right? So this one's easy. Let's kind of do that first. So the first part, if we do that, we distribute. When we distribute, we always get rid of the bracket, and it's amazing that that happens. So now we get 2x times negative 3x squared. So 2 times negative 3 gives us negative 6. And then x times x squared gives us x cubed. 2 times 1 is, well, it's plus 2xy. Now, don't write it as yx or anything like that. Just remember that when you have an x and a y, write them in alphabetical order. Okay? That makes your life easier. So now let's do the next one. The next bracket starts with negative 3y sitting in front of it. And we're going to apply the minus 3y to everything on the inside. So that is minus 3y times 4x minus 9x. So let's do that. So minus 3y, when we apply it, so imagine you got minus 3 times minus 4, so you're going to get negative 12. And then we're going to get x and y together. Now we're going to take minus 3y and we're going to do it again and multiply it. Now minus 3 times minus 9 gives us positive 27. Then we have 1x and 1y as our final bit. So now let's see what happens. So let's collect our like terms. The first value, negative 6x cubed, is alone. There's nothing else, so we just leave it. But we have a 2xy and a minus 12xy. 2xy minus 12xy is going to be negative 10. And then negative 10 plus 27 gives us positive 17xy. And guess what? We're done. Your homework for today is this set of problems. So now what we're going to do is we're going to expand our polynomials. Now, here's what I need you to understand. We can follow FOIL, which is what you learned in school. Now, here's my thing. FOIL is great, but guess what? I got something better. We've been practicing distribution of numbers into brackets for the last hour or two. Now, what would happen if we used that power over and over again until we got what we're looking for? It ends up looking like FOIL. Now, here's my thing. Suppose you want to continue using FOIL, you can use my reference page on the website. So to refresh yourself as to how FOIL works. But this time what I'm going to show you is something that is very similar to how we worked with distribution of polynomials. So think of it this way. The stuff that's in the first bracket is going to be acting onto everything in the second bracket. So what if we looked at what's happening in the first bracket and then we applied what's going on to everything in the second bracket, just like we were doing our distributions from before. So now what we end up with is, well, x times x is going to be x squared, which is what we expect. And then x times 7 is going to be plus 7x. Now, let's take a look at the minus 5 here. Now, notice I didn't say 5. It's going to be minus 5 or plus 5 or whatever is the second variable in that bracket. The plus 5 is going to be applied to everything inside the bracket. So now we're going to get negative 5 times x gives us negative 5x. Negative 5 times 7 is going to be negative 35. Now, let's go and pull all this information together. So now my first term is x squared. Now, 7x, now we have our next variable, our next terms are going to be already organized nicely if we do it this way. So now we have 7x and minus 5x. Let's add those two together. So we're going to get, well, plus 2x. And then we get minus 35. And guess what? We're done. Following this same pattern in the next problem set, we get something like this. 4a times 2a, and then times negative 1. And then we also have minus 3 times 2a, and then times negative 1. Let's simplify. 4a times 2a is 8a. squared. 4a times negative 1 is going to be minus 4a. And then negative 3 times 2a is going to be minus 6a. And then negative 3 minus 1 is going to be positive 3. Now let's go and collect all our like terms just like before. Well, we look for all terms. We'll start with 8a squared. 8a squared is the only a squared term. But you'll notice that we have minus 4a and minus 6a, which is already simplified perfectly. It's already been collected perfectly. So now we've got minus 10a and then plus 3. And we're done. Let's continue that same pattern over and over again till we kind of understand how it works. We've got 3 more problems and I will show you the solutions. Pause the video here and I'll show you each intermediate step. So now for our red portion, we have minus 5 times 7 and then times 2y. So let's see what our result is. So we have minus 35x squared, and that's because we have minus 35 because we have minus 5 and 7 gives us 35, and x gives us x squared. And then for the final part of the red, we get minus 10xy. Now let's continue on with our blue. So the second half of the first bracket, we're going to circle it and we're going to underline, create our blue lines showing where we're going. Now let's expand properly for that. We're going to distribute the minus 3y into the next bracket. So we get, well, minus 21xy. Now the reason why that is because we have minus 3 and 7 gives us negative 21. And then x and y are the 2 variables that are multiplied together, so just write them in order alphabetically, x, y. And minus 6y squared. And the reason why that is because we have minus 3 times 2. And then we have y and y, which gives us y squared. Now let us collect our like terms to the following. Minus 35, x squared, minus 31 xy, and then minus 6y squared. Let's follow the same pattern for the next problem. We'll follow the same rules as before to get the following. We get the following. And now, simplifying, well, we look at our 42. Negative 42 doesn't have any other part, so we just leave it alone. And you'll notice the way we do this, it's always the middle terms that are always going to be combined. Every time you do these problems, it's only the middle term. There's no rearrangements or anything. So now we're going to get minus 2b and then minus 4b squared as our final answer. Now let's continue on with our final equation for the day. So you will sometimes see something that looks like this. 3x minus 2 raised to the power of 2. Anything raised to the power of 2. If I had 3 squared, it really means 3 times 3, doesn't it? Which is 9. So if I have a bracket all squared, what I want you to do is I want you to basically do the following. Change it to look like this. 3x minus 2 times 3x minus 2, and you're back to what we were doing before. Our red being applied to everything in the next bracket, and then our blue being applied everything into the next bracket. So our red is 3x times 3x is going to be 9x squared, and we'll write this in red. And then we have 3x times minus 2, which is minus 6x. Now for our blue calculations, we got minus 2 times 3x, which is minus 6x, and minus 2 times minus 2, which gives us positive 4. So now when we simplify, remember, every time we've done this, it's always the first and the last term that never has to do anything. But the middle two terms are what's always going to be simplified. So I can just rewrite that as just 9x squared. And then I know I have to collect the like terms of the middle. So I get minus 12x and then plus 4. Your homework for today are these questions. The notes on page 1, 5, 7, 8, and 19. Good luck.